but obviously still very much paying attention to it. And out of everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks, I had an interesting question that I thought you would have let's say the Nets and the Knicks both said to you, come work for us. Um, let's forget about ownership and all that stuff. Uh, which team do you think right now is better positioned, the Nets or the Knicks? I think 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 25 days ago would be interesting. But right now, the night of November 6th, who do you feel better about as an organization where they are, the Nets or the Knicks?
Well, it's going to disappoint my friends that I still have in that Nets organization, but for me, it's the Knicks. I like the certain bet on things, although this team is 500 right now. I mean, Brian, if you would have told me that the Ben Simmons in Brooklyn is the Ben Simmons of 2 years ago, and the turmoil of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, or everything, if these players were under contract, if Irving was under contract and there wasn't any issues, I would certainly say the Nets here. But the Knicks, where they are, I would take Jalen Brunson over Kyrie Irving any day of the week. It's certainly not, Irving's has more of the accolades, but I'm taking the guy that's in their contract for 4 more years and is the more consistent player. I don't know where the Nets are going with their head coaching search, and who knows, in a year from now, Tom Thibodeau could be out of a job. Who knows, right? But at least for now, I'm taking all their draft picks that they've hoarded and are not willing to give up right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm taking a little bit more of kind of the sure bet here, where the RJ Barretts, the Julius Randles, I know there's some unattractive pieces, Evan Fournier's contract here, but for me, the only really sure bet is Kevin Durant, and I don't know how long he's going to be in Brooklyn for. There's no guarantee there.
So I want to, you mentioned the Knicks pick situation. I just want to go over it real quick. So the Knicks own all of their first round picks. And I think they owe a couple of second round picks. The next 2 years, I think they've traded their second round picks. So they don't have all their seconds, but they have all their firsts. Plus they have this year's pick from Dallas is top 10 protected. They own this year's pick from Detroit, top 18 protected. So that's not going to convey. And then it rolls back in protections for years, but they have a Detroit pick that they have to trade. They have a pick from the Wizards, which is top 14 protected this year, top 12 protected next year, top 10 protected in 25. It could come this year, but maybe next, maybe the year after. They have a couple of second round draft picks. Well, here, I'll just go to 2025. They've got a 2025 first from Milwaukee. So that's 4 extra first round picks in addition to the 7 that they have, for 11 total. And now that I'm looking at it, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 incoming second round picks. So their 2 picks are going, but they have 5 more. So they have plus 3 second round picks. So an outrageous number of picks. Brooklyn don't control their draft for the next 5 years. 3 picks, I think, and 2 swaps. Bobby, is that right?
Yeah, they have the swap this year with Houston, 2 unprotected, 2 swaps. So basically in the next 4 years here.
Next 4 years, right.
The crazy part with Brooklyn, though, and I know they've won a couple games of late here, but if you take a peek in the standings here, and if Armageddon came and you were just gonna gut this roster here, because of where Houston is right now and sitting in that number 1 spot, there would be a crazy scenario out there where the Nets could potentially have a top 3. They'll never have the number 1 pick, right? They'll never have the number 1 pick because the Rockets right to swap.
They're not getting Victor Wembanyama.
No, but you could get Scoot number 2 if all hell broke loose.
Yeah. So you mentioned this in passing on Zach Lowe's podcast the other day, and I don't like the whole going back and forth on podcasts, but you mentioned it, and I thought it was interesting. So the premise that you're bringing up here, before we talk about the more relative situation, is that you've heard the term "go big or go home." This would be sort of the inverse of that. It would be like go home, because like, it would be basically like, if you're going to really pivot and salvage this situation, you would have to do it immediately. And you would have to say, okay, since Houston's pick, that you don't know what Houston would be next year. You don't know what Houston would be in 2 years. So there's ever going to be an advantageous time in the next really 3 or 4 years to swap with Houston, or sort of take the fangs out of Houston's swap rights. It would potentially be this year. Not only because the Rockets aren't very good, but also because they're not incentivized to get any better, because they want their own pick to have the best chance to get number 1 as possible. So you're saying in that regard, I mean, first off, we know that Ben Simmons is coming off a serious back injury, doesn't look good, and now he's got a knee issue. We know that Kyrie Irving at the moment has been sent home. We know that Joe Harris has lingering issues with his surgery. We know that Seth Curry is having issues coming off his surgery. They currently do not have a full-time head coach. They have an interim head coach. Ime Udoka has not been named head coach. Draw your own conclusions from Ime Udoka not having been named head coach yet. We'll see what happens there. The concept you're saying, and this sounds like something that if you were still on staff there, you might be bringing up, is maybe the move here is see what the market is for Kevin Durant, trade Kevin Durant at his max value here, and play the heck out of Cam Thomas, and just try to go ahead and give yourself a guaranteed lottery pick this year.
Yeah, I mean, because this is the year. It's not going to be next year, because next year the Rockets own your pick outright. So if this was a year to do it, this would be it. Now, on the other end, and we've talked about this at length, this Brooklyn front office has invested a lot, right? With the Harden trade and all the picks they owe. And, so if they're willing to take an approach like they did when they took over in 2016, when they didn't have anything invested in the Boston trade that, part of that front office made, this is direction. However, things are a lot different than 2016. Their fingerprints are all over the Harden trade of 2021. Their fingerprints are on Irving, on Durant, on Ben Simmons here. So it's a lot different than it was, 5 or 6 years ago.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.